Hello tubers, Mescal here. Here's a great resource, stanslegacy.com. There's a whole bunch of patents. Stan's patents. What I want to talk about today is polarity of the cell, the importance of the duty cycle. I want to try and clear up some misunderstandings about what is actually happening. What else do I want to talk about while I'm doing a little overview? Also that what you don't see in any of Stan's technology and why you don't see that. I believe that Stan didn't need to create as much gas as you would normally need if you just, grabbed a hydrogen cylinder from the gas shop and hooked it up to your car and ran down the road on it. That gas, that hydrogen, wouldn't be as energy dense as what Stan was creating, because if you look here, we've got stage one is basically just getting the gas, okay, and then stage two, liquid to gas ionization, charging effect, particle impact, electromagnetic wave, laser, and photon injection. So you don't see any wet bubblers in Stan's system, and there's a reason for that, because the wet bubbler puts the gases back together, grounds them, and stops any of this photonic absorption, increasing energy thing that he's trying to do, stripping away electrons. If you went and put a stripped electron gas back into a wet bubbler, then that would remove the charge state and ground that gas, and it would come back to normal. So that's the kind of thing that he maintained that charge all the way to the point of using it. And it's been said in other systems that, like a Joe cell, for instance, like you need to use it straight up. But anyway, let's not waffle on about other systems. So the importance of the pulse train. Let me just pause and find the right spot in the patent. Here in figure 6A, you can see this pulse train is flat on the top. There's a diagonal line that's shown inside of the pulse train. The diagonal line is the cell charging up, and then there's a little dip in the middle there where you can see it's coming back down to a relaxation state and then being charged up again. So not only is that an efficient way to maintain the charge on the capacitor, and by maintaining the charge keep the gases being made, it also works in concert with the charging chokes, is because you get the upside down of that signal packed together. So when it comes into the cell now, you get this it's a doubling, a frequency doubling kind of effect. And that's described in the patent. So let's see if I can find that section. Here we go. The primary coil of the toroid is subject to a 50% duty cycle. Provides a voltage step up. This is describing his an example in this patent, and it's pretty detailed. It tells you what kind of diode to use. It tells you what kind of transformer to use. 600 turns on the secondary, 200 turns on the primary, 5-to-1 step-up ratio. Yeah, so we can use that information as we think about what's being described here. But here we go, the 50% duty cycle was terminated, thus a double frequency is produced. However, in a pulse train of unipolar pulses, there is a brief time when the pulses are not present. So, see, and I showed this when I was playing with chokes the other day, that we got this top and bottom burst type frequency, and it's very important because it doesn't look anything like the signals that you get with just PWM. We're not you're not going to get in the realms of Stan Meyer electrolysis just using PWM, because when these chokes are tuned right, what it's supposed to do is initially it creates a potential difference between plate 1 and plate 2 to give a small voltage to initiate Faraday electrolysis to create the first ionization step, and that is like the number one on his list of what happens, because it says that, you know, the chokes maintain the charge on the capacitor. All right, hang on, let's keep going. Many people have talked about adding electrolyte, adding salt, or a tiny bit of salt, or a tiny bit of this or that. And there it is. An electrolyte is not added to the water. Okay. Here he describes it a bit more. Such a resonant charging choke is on each side of the capacitor. In the circuit, the diode acts as a switch that allows the magnetic field produced in the inductor to collapse, thereby doubling the pulse frequency and preventing the capacitor from discharging. In this manner, a continuous voltage is produced across the capacitor plates in the water bath, and the capacitor does not discharge. The water molecules are thus subjected to a continuous charge field until the breakdown of the covalent bond occurs. Okay, and as has been mentioned before, well, here's Stan saying it, yes, the capacitance depends on the size of the tubes and the water. Here we talk about the wiper arm on the second inductor, tunes the circuit and accommodates to contaminants in the water. This is why electrolytes aren't required, because this tuning with these inductors somehow creates the situation where it's not about the conductivity of the water anymore. It's about maintaining a voltage field without current flow. On the subject of variable inductor, I think it might be a good idea to make something like this, because it is he's described that coil, you know, to be equal coils, one either side, and he describes the other one as 100 turn on 1 inch form. So the other choke must be a 1 inch form with 100 turns as well, and I can't think of any other way to do it without doing it like that, old school, or possibly one of those wire wound potentiometer type of, you know, the big pots that you find in the back of speakers, and big motor control gear, and it's more of an old school style of thing. You don't tend to see them this much these days, but yeah, so definitely need some sort of adjustable inductor to maintain this Stan Meyer technology. If you don't have the inductors there, you're just doing PWM. Okay, so what else? Often it has been said the negative should be the center rod. I don't find Stan describing it anywhere really to be said this one must be that one. But if you go through and you look, I've noticed on the electron extraction circuit, this one that you're seeing here with this third electrode, that that's a center positive. And if you think about the way a coaxial cable is arranged, if you were sending a signal to something, doing it like Andrija Purahich's style, he used a carrier wave, which would mean you have to use coaxial cable, which means the center would be positive, and you wouldn't just invert that when you got to your cell and flip that all about. You'd still create your your center would be your active electrode. So I've flipped mine around in my cell and noticed that there's more action on the inside walls of the outer, and so you see it as positive on the electron extraction, but if you keep scrolling down, it's sort of it's hit and miss. Generally, it's negative shown on the wrong on the middle one, and I'm calling it the wrong one because it's I was shown a few demonstrations. I can't find that video anymore. It was a fellow experimenter had just shown the difference between what happened with his cells with center positive versus center negative, and it looked to be more action on the center positive. But everybody keeps following the main patents that you see and going with the opposite. If you look here, the diode is on the outer, so that would be outer positive. So this thing here is like stage 4, where you're exciting the gas before it gets turned into something else. So the circuit for that looks very much like the one used for the fuel cell, and I believe there's a lot of confusion with that, and I'm pretty sure that one back up there where we had the third electrode was for that, because you see gas resonant cavity, that's not for water, that's the gas one. And you see there's a flip-flop here going on with you've got if you look at the pulses described just above the optocouplers there, one is gated high at the time that the other one's gating low, which means and you can see that's described there by variable alternate gate circuit. So flip flop, one's driving and then the other one's extracting at the time when, so pulsing, stealing. We've talked about this before. Also on the subject of tuning, if you think about like radios and standing wave ratios, and how if your antenna's mismatched to your radio, that you might not even get a signal out. It might damage the internals of your radio because the actual output position of the wave is somewhere inside the radio and can, or halfway up the coax instead of on the antenna. And I think that this is partly to do with this tuning, is you're shifting where the action happens in a very much a radio tuning standing wave ratio to antenna kind of relationship, if that makes sense. So I think there's nothing more to it than we have to make some some chokes, adjustable chokes, or find an equivalent that's something like 100 turns with a wiper arm on it, and go from there, because anything else is just pulsed electrolysis. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching.